Well, let's return now to our top story and what the French Prime Minister has described as the sudden and spectacular rise in COVID-19 cases. Perhaps adding to the government woes today are frontline healthcare workers who've been protesting in several major French cities calling for improved working conditions. Well, to discuss this, let's go to Paris, where we can speak to our international correspondent, Alexei Borges. Annalise, we know, of course, that so many thousands of frontline health workers have been working flat out since the start of the pandemic. They have received a pay rise recently. So what have they been taking to the streets to demand today?
Well, Tokes, medical personnel have been saying that the measures adopted and announced by the French government in order to invest on the public healthcare sector here in this country are simply too little, too late. For years, they have been denouncing worsening working conditions, lack of investment in hospitals across the country, and, of course, very little salaries and very little in terms of a rise in their compensation, their salaries. So they have been saying that this COVID-19 crisis has added to the pressure, has laid bare and exacerbated the challenges that they have been facing for decades now. A recent poll here in France showed that 40% of nurses across the country say they want to quit. They want to change their jobs. This in a country that already lacked, before the coronavirus pandemic hit, some 30,000 nurses in public hospitals in this country. So some medics I spoke to today that were taking to the streets here in the French capital told me that they are simply not ready for a second wave of the pandemic. They say that this second round of restrictions proposed by Emmanuel Macron, that include, of course, the curfew in some 9 major cities across France, will simply not help them face this crisis. Take a listen.
It's too late now. We need more resources. These small measures, just a curfew in zones of high alert, we're very far away from the reality in hospitals. We will very soon be reaching saturation point. Only us, the ones who are on the ground, are really aware of the situation. Those measures are not going to be enough to solve the crisis. We're moving towards disaster.
Annalise, the French Prime Minister has been giving the details on these new restrictions which come into force across the country. Tell us more about what he's had to say.
Well, Jean Castex described just how this curfew is going to be enforced. Some 12,000 police officers across the country to make sure that everyone is following the rules. Nobody is allowed outside past 9 p.m., starting on Saturday past 9 p.m. and, of course, until 6 a.m. He says that the rule of 6 is of paramount importance. No more than 6 people around a table, no more than 6 people inside a room. And Jean Castex also announced that these gatherings, these parties, celebrations are now prohibited in France. So no more weddings, no more christenings, no more bar mitzvahs in this country. Jean Castex says that it's paramount that the French limit the number of people they come into contact with. And that was exactly the message by Emmanuel Macron last night when he announced that curfew, because authorities here are insisting that the number of daily new infections need to go down. We are currently at around 20,000 new infections every day. Yesterday, once again, 22,000 new cases of COVID-19 in this country. Authorities say for hospitals to be able to cope, we need to get that number down to less than 3,000 Tokes.
Well, for better or worse, a lot of families will be getting to know themselves a bit better over the next few weeks. Annalise Borges with the latest from Paris. Thank you.